Greetings, Ellen and Christy and you, everybody. Greetings, everybody. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the core new core, and anybody interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor, a human being, or a Pilates student. Should have said Pilates instructor, Pilates student, and any human being. Because to know about core new tension is about biomechanics that applies to everybody. And that's a good thing to know about, whether you care anything about Pilates. Three things today. So today is June 30th. I gotta put this water somewhere else, away from all the books. Makes sense, right? Because my books are right here inside my travel suitcase. June 30th, 4 years ago. I was not in a very good place, and I didn't like the direction it was going, because it was getting worse. And it was at some point that I didn't choose, that I couldn't anticipate. At some point, I just chose to say no. I chose to say no. Like probably 4 years ago today, June 30th, because then the next day, July 1st, 2016, I started getting up and doing an intermediate reformer workout, taking notes, and broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook. So my observation about the biggest thing about 4 years ago was observing that it wasn't about choosing noble goals or aspirations for me, as much as it was me saying no to what wasn't acceptable in myself in terms of not working out. Surrendering to my imperfections. Anyway, in saying no to that 4 years ago, it was just like the next day, I'm going to work out. And I had the luxury over the last 4 years, coming to an end next month, July, to my own equipment, to where I could do that. And so in some ways I think life, a lot of times, or in my life, expresses itself by what I say no to. You know, it's not like I'm always trying to climb higher and be better, as much as I'm not willing to sink that low. And I'm very grateful and amazed that it's been 1,461 days ago that I said no and started a routine, and a routine that's been for the daily. I'll bet 99% of the time. A few days in there, but that's when I was traveling, and even then I tried to do the reformer workout. So number 2 is message and structure. So over that time period, the last 1,461 days, I was really keen on trying to conduct a workshop, helping you conduct a workshop that explained my 2 theories. And so that's the message. That's the message. Over those 4 years, the language and the delivery have refined to the point that it has. And the message is about 2 theories that I find value in, and I hope that you find value in it too. Not only for yourself, but to the point where we can even make more money together. Perhaps my estate and my executors and my trustees, but the word structure in my second title, the second thing, it's message and structure. If the message is about these 2 theories, the structure that really didn't dawn on me or that I hadn't grown into yet, because I was headed back out on the road, which is how I spent a lot of my time, as a Cocopelli driving around the States, promoting my point of view, acting as a teacher and an instructor, where I could, where I was invited. And yet, of course, the wave of Pilates has reached a different place in the United States, and everybody does it and knows it, and most have come to be enamored with something other than the MMP point of view. The structure that crystallized when I was headed out on tour again, or hoping to, because it's in my character and I don't know how else to promote the brand. I came upon Amanda Moxley's point of view. I spent $5.90, and that's all I've ever spent, but it was eye-popping to see how pre-recorded videos and pre-written text could lead to offers for pre-recorded videos for a lot of money, and then other videos for less money, and then other things for less money, until you got your $5.90 manual. Blah, blah. The structure that changed for me was recognizing 2 different time frames. A short time frame and a longer time frame. My mind had always been in this longer time frame. This is core new tension, this is Michael Miller Pilates, in this workshop, this presentation. But what's missing from this is people in it, and the people that want to come to it are the ones that get exposed to what you have to say in a shorter amount of time. Like a talk or a speech that can be written out in front of you, but it's the synthesized version, the best parts of, what you could expand on if anybody was interested in this part. And so the pandemic set in like a fog at an airport, and to a pilot, meaning no traveling for me, at least so far. And yet appreciating the need for a short version of what you want other people to pay more for in an extended format, whatever your subject matter is. So that last part about structure just has happened in the last year or so. But all of it has taken me, so in terms of having this much time to do your signature session, her phrase, but I like it a lot, is introduced in your talk. That's pre-written. And so it's the synthesis of what goes in here, and then how do you deliver an introduction to what you have so much more to talk about. Now me, I just talked at length at will for the last 4 years because I had the opportunity to, because I had a phone and a connection to the internet and something to say, but always in light of how little Joe left, and maybe that was a good thing. Because the little that he left is enough to get to where the MMP point of view comes from, meaning appreciating the doing of Pilates as experiential. You can experience it, and that the structure, talk about structure, that the structure of the mat that you pursue, in whatever form, with whatever other apparatus, you know, you're after uniformly developing the body, because contrology develops the body uniformly. You're looking for eccentric because in Joe's book it talks about coming from the center, out from the center, eccentric. And because you're looking for uniformly developing the body, the very effort in the musculature of oppositional rotation between axes presses the axes apart from one another. Doing this around the ears and shoulders, it presses the axis around the ears and the axis of the shoulders apart from one another. It stretches it out. Eccentric effort is like a worm stretching itself out from making the rotational dynamics So somewhere here I've got my skinny poster. Is it? No. I tucked it in, I think, one of Joe's books. The archive book. Skinny. So here's your body. Here's your body. And here's gravity. Right? Because of gravity, this is happening to your body. You're a water balloon. You're a water balloon. Some muscles and bones and stuff. But all of it's under the stress of gravity, and this is happening. I tell you, Ellen and Christy, I have no idea why it's so impossible to see what to me is perfectly obvious and sensational, And that is, we have rotational dynamic at the shoulder, at the hips. We have rotational dynamic at the shoulders. And those rotational dynamics are grips. And in making the grip, this happens. Because you're stretching, you're grabbing, your body's making a grip at one end, your hips, your pelvis, and shoulders at the other. And to the extent that they engage in core new tension, that's what's happening. Now that may sound far-fetched, but the very same thing is true between the ears and the shoulders. And that when you make core new tension between ears and shoulders, the vertebrae float there as well, at that end of the spine. My point is, what seems obvious, that oppositional rotation between axes is the means that you get to developing the body uniformly. And so that's the first theory, and that's what I'm holding light to. It's something that you can feel, and it's just identifying, it's holding light to the biomechanics of how the biology is accomplishing the physics. It's a far cry from this manifestation of biology, but it's still the same reality, it's still the same gravity field, and we have to contend with our own weight as a water balloon, I want to say, as a fish swimming through an ocean of air. And yet we can't even swim through an ocean of air because we're so heavy, we can only walk on it, jump on it maybe. But we're definitely heavier than our environment unless we're in water. So. It's been a good thing for me to count, because I end up saying okay, and then Google, and then how many days since my first day. And you got to say June 30th in order to start counting on July 1st. You can do the same thing, of course, with your birthday or any other date. So my number 3 topic is unnerved, because here on YouTube, it's all been a hermit holding out a light into the darkness and having no reason to expect anybody really to be there, except you, Christy, for a while now, a month or so maybe. And Ellen just a couple weeks. And so if you're new to this, or if you just pick up on my series of broadcasts, the chunk of them that are consistent in terms of environment and routine that's been behind them started July 1st, 2016. 4 years ago. And what I'm so grateful for is that throughout that time there's been a synthesis of messaging, hopefully clarifying, hopefully empowering, to the point where someday you say, hey, I not only want to do this, but I want to be an official presenter. I want you to help me advertising my talk, which will lead to a deeper explanation of the 2 theories, and then everything else that I know to add to it to go along with that. It's about adding two and two. So you can't pick your fans, and you can't pick when they show up. So, Christy, I don't know how far back you go in time, but Ellen, I know you go further than I do, or started sooner than I did. Do you remember this? Do you remember? I see Bobby, and I see Susan, and I see Ellen, and I see Christy. And when I saw that on television, that was all new anyway, believing that if they said my name, which they never did, that they actually could see me. What a deal. And all the light that I hopefully have held towards spirit being observing, and observing being something beyond and outside of thinking, that thinking coordinates with in the moving. Being, thinking, and observing. I used the magic mirror a lot in Facebook when I could actually see who's watching and see, what does that do? That gives acknowledgement. You're seen out there. And that feeds into some quantum theories that reality is what is observed. And it isn't real until it's observed. But I'm not so sure that I like the stable reality that I'm in because it's consistent. I'm open to all kinds of interpretations and different ways of looking at things. I'm not inclined to ignore the obvious of three-dimensional space and gravity, alignment, uniform engagement. Oh, that was my other reference to the past. So, Ellen and Christy, do you know about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? And that a third movie either was in production or was headed into being. So much of the last 4 years has been me using this medium to broadcast out through the telephone booth to whatever time frame it makes the most sense in. I encourage you to do the same. You can't pick your fans or when they show up. So all I've tried to do is, say, look. This core new tension is for real. And you can wait until science comes down the pike and has data to verify the theory. My point is that being aware of the theory and being able to connect to the sensation that the theory points to, in the case of core new tension, and in the case of Michael Miller-Pilates, the theory is that Pilates is an experience. And that what you're seeking to do is explain the experience. And MMP takes a shot at that by way of directly of Joe's book. Without any need for consideration of knowledge based in folklore. So whatever you take subjectively Pilates to be from your exposure to it through folklore, in the pursuit of an understanding that goes beyond that to explanation, to assertion that it has an essence of its own, the essence is an experience, and that you can explain the experience all within the human being without getting unexplained or mystical, except for the characteristic of observing, being non-linear and superluminal, which is shorthand for, which is exotic or fancy words for saying that, you know, this quantum aspect of being connected to the universe faster than light. So when you're doing Pilates, what are you really doing? You're combining, in the MMP point of view, you're combining moving, that's your being, you're moving, your thinking, which is happening in one part of your brain called your prefrontal cortex. This is just the MMP point of view. And then in something other than thinking, areas like the hippocampus and the amygdala, that feed information into all the thinking, is coordinating those three things in the pursuit of the control of performing the choreography, the movements, flowing one to the other without stopping. It's only human nature to want to crawl to the peak of, or climb to the peak of your mountain and hold your light aloft. Me, you, everybody. Joe's book makes a statement all by itself. It delivers an experience. It explains an experience and how to pursue it. Thanks for listening. You can keep going over on Facebook if you wish, but I don't think many are that up for that much of me. Joe didn't leave much, but he did leave exactly what he was passionate about, and he did say, I believe, exactly what he meant. So if you can stand on Joe's definition and look through the MMP point of view, it gives you solid foundation that's understandable, that's comprehensible, that is not only comprehensible but applicable and experiential. So whenever you're ready to pick up on this, to the point of sharing really great information to people that are looking for anything new. Well, coronary tension has been around the world, it's true, but also really just taken as more of an image than an understanding of the biodynamics it represents. Maybe I'm wrong on that too, but that's like... Life can't live forever. Neither can my broadcast. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain, connect the dots, evaluate points of view. And I've spent the last 1,461 days trying to clarify a point of view, trying to hold light to the knowledge of core new tension, which is biomechanics in human beings, and a point of view of Pilates that's based on an explanation of, that's based on an assumption that Pilates is an experience, and it goes from like embodiment is the ultimate authority, I've said many years. And so much of embodiment is evident. When you engage in core new tension, when your head is participating in 3 points on a smooth curve that is obviously drawing tension into itself from the creation of the core new tension, that's embodiment. That's not just somebody thinking about it, that's somebody engaged in it, that is, who's in it, whose effect is obvious. The authority is in the embodiment. Same thing is true for MMP in the experience of Pilates. And you may wish to never go there or never consider this valid or worthy or anything. Just one person's opinion. It's right. It's just one person's opinion. It's mine. And I'm proud to share it with you. Because it elevates you to a whole nother perspective of what you're doing as a Pilates instructor or as a Pilates student. And in the case of just a human being, of what you're doing with core new tension. So I was unnerved over on YouTube, and I'm still here, so it's time for me to go. Read between the lines, add the dots, connect the dots, read between the lines. See? Direct your thinking. Geist.